Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Borderwise and welcome back to From the Depths Subscriber Craft Reviews. And today we've got a bit of a special episode because it's two craft that, I hope you brought your salt and pepper because there's a lot of cheese in this episode. And two very well made craft actually that are, they don't use exploits. I should mention that straight off the bat. They are entirely legal as far as the review rules go, but they're both very annoying. And so, on that note, the name of said craft are, I should mention, they are currently tethered to this little holding platform right here because they tend to wander off into the middle distance if you don't hold them to something. We have the Annoyance by Brennan, which is extremely well named, and we'll get to that in a bit. And we have the Hovercraft by Sabertooth Proton. And these two ships are being reviewed together for, they're actually very similar in many ways. They're both hovercraft, they both use PIDs to fly, stay afloat. They're both incredibly evasive, and they're both, I guess, how would you describe them? Forward-facing assault craft, so they point directly at an enemy, and they bounce around and are very hard to hit, and they both have sub-vehicles. So, that's the similarities. They're actually a very good comparison contrast, because while they are very similar, they kind of accomplish the same thing in different ways. Well, similar things in different ways, I should say. And so we're gonna start with the Annoyance by Brennan, and as I mentioned before, very well named. This craft is tremendously irritating, because it's essentially a cheaper, nastier version of the Scarlet Dawn Event Horizon and the Grey Talon's Adrastos. It is a warp craft. It warps around, all annoying like the Event Horizon, and I believe the Singularity is another one. There's a few Scarlet Dawn warp craft that are annoying like that. And actually, we're gonna get the NV Hovercraft to shut up for a moment. So, where were we? And it's like the Adrastos because it has these little planes flying around, which have blueprint spawners on them that spawn... Yeah, you are reading that right. They spawn ICBMs, which, as far as I can tell, are exactly the same as the Grey Talon ICBM. So, it has little planes that spawn nukes, in other words. So, and this review might very well be shorter than a lot of my other ones because, honestly, I don't have many criticisms of either craft. They're both put together very well. They do what they set out to do. They are what they are, and they're good at what they are. Yeah, that sentence makes sense. Sorry, just double-checking it in my head. And so, let's start with the pros of this thing. Well, for a start, it looks pretty good, actually. It's got little artsy, pointy bits all over it. It looks kind of spiky and menacing. I personally would shoot for a darker paint scheme, but you all know me. I like black on my ships. Everything's cool in black, but that's fine. It looks pretty sci-fi, actually. It actually looks quite a lot like, a little bit like if a Scarlet Dawn craft had an illicit affair with a White Flare ship, hence the rams and spiky bits. So, what is the pros? It's surprisingly short list, but all of those are good things. For one thing, and this is where I destroy everything and we actually get to testing, so let's spoil something interesting. I was, for the beginning montage, I was spawning them against the Bulwark and the Trebuchet simply because they blow up nicely. Let's spawn them against something tremendously annoying. What deserves a good thrashing that won't kill my frame rate? There we go, Crossbones. So, Crossbones is all the way over here, and we're gonna go way over here and just spawn in the Annoyance. I can't get over how well it's named, by the way. It is, sometimes coming up with a name for a craft can be a little bit of a struggle. Different people have different themes for their craft and all that stuff, but Brennan, I give you credit, this is, named perfectly. Although now I look at it, I'm not sure if that's how you spell Annoyance. It probably is, I don't know. I don't particularly mind. And we're going to spawn on the Scarlet Dawn team, because why not? So here we have the thing. We have this hovering thing in its two planes. And assuming the crossbones doesn't die too fast, this is what happens. So you spawn it in, and it starts firing big guns, and whoop, it's warped. So crams do not really have any hope whatsoever of hitting this thing. And you'll see just any shot that the crossbones manage to land. I think it's actually warping faster than the guns can traverse. Yeah, it is. Hasn't pulled off a shot yet. It's really messing with it, yeah. And so it warps, and even if... Oh yeah, I should just pause it. Whoa. Oh, hello. Didn't expect that. We'll get back to that in a minute. But one thing to note is way over here, assuming I get over here. Well, big guns for a start. Well, not massive guns, but very big guns all the same. I'm getting my pros all out of order, so you'll notice these lamb nodes on the front. This thing actually has a very good lambs. Well, I say very good, it's pretty darn good. It's hard to kill, even if for some reason it's not warping or stuff is catching up to it. It will fry incoming missile barrages and shells a lot of the time, so it's got good active defenses like that. And that's a weird particle effect I just realized. So yeah, it warps, has a strong lambs, and we should get way over here to where the nuke just got shot out of the sky, which is probably... I forgot what freaking series I was doing right now, but yeah, this thing spawns nukes. Actually, how are they doing? Oh dear, one of the microplanes has been taken down. So it doesn't do fantastically against anything with good point defense, but it does do pretty well, and I think only one nuke is going to need to get through to really ruin the crossbones' day. Yep, I think, yep, all your little guns are reloading. Oh dear. Whoa, what caught it there? Was that an autocannon? Oh well, this isn't possibly the best demonstration against the crossbones. But yeah, it spawns nukes. Lots of them. So yeah, and should go over the guns actually, so we're just gonna delete this quickly. Because that fight's going nowhere in a hurry, so spawn Annoyance yet again. Blum 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 blum. So the guns, the guns, the guns. So here we are. And on these guns right here, these big ones, how big are they? They are 500mm, so actually as big as you can get with APS. And it's got quite a few guns. It has quite a party mix, actually. So it's got disruptors, it's got hollow point, high explosive, it's got squash heads, obligatory, and it's got HE frag. I guess I'll show you the shell types here. So, pretty basic shell type, base bleeder to make up for the crappy range on the disruptor. Hollow point, high explosive, again, pretty standard. Standard, reliable. It's got squash head. Don't need inertial fuses on squash heads, I've been repeatedly told, so yeah, don't need that. And HE frag, which is, again, like, all-around reliable shell. That's for the big guns on the side, and I believe in the middle here it has... smoke. So, Sabot smoke. Again, quite a... this is a shell type I'm seeing more and more. I think it's quite meta, and I don't know if I'm responsible for that or someone else is. I'd like to think it was me with my Crime Survival guide, but honestly, it probably wasn't. I'm definitely not the first person to think of this. But yeah, good party mix of ammunition. It will kill most things it can hit eventually. And it also has, you'll notice on the front, it has laser warners, and it's got smoke. And incidentally, for those of you... oh goodness, there we go. So it's quite compact as well, so... why do steam engine components count as structural ones, and why do fuel boxes count as that? What is going on? So, it's got warp controllers. A lot of them, and built sideways as well. The fact this warps sideways... in fact, sideways movement in general is a theme for this whole review, because the NV Hovercraft does that as well. More on that later. So, little ACBs right there. So, enemy range is that. Begin charging warp drive. So, less than 3,500 meters. And that turns the shields off. That turns the shields on. And this activates every 3 seconds, so every 3 seconds it's gonna warp sideways by, I don't know, maybe if I look over here. 73, burp burp, sideways efficiency of 39%. Now, arguably, how far does this thing warp each time? I don't know. Whoops. Shouldn't have done that. Whoopsies. I've never messed with warp controls, not entirely sure how they work, but regardless, this thing warps well past its own width every 3 seconds. So yeah, that's good. It's got... Actually, I'm gonna get this right eventually. There we go. Now we can see everything. This is a very compact craft, by the way. Massive engines. And yeah, it's all kind of squeezed in nice and tight into one space. And now that we can see the insides of this thing, we can move on to the cons of it, because there are a few. And generally this thing is a very formidable craft. It can take on a lot of godly class designs. Just the combination with it warping and the fact that it has nuke spawning sub-vehicles means it's a bit of an annoyance, if you get what I'm saying. So the first thing, which you'll notice, well, right here actually, in fact let's do this so you can see the extent of this, is that if this does get hit anywhere on its rear pretty much, if even one of these little ammo barrels goes up, the entire arse gets blown off completely, and I can demonstrate that by doing this, and it's quite fun to watch actually. So we're here, and its backside is right here, and here's my explosion tool, and I'll disable that. So that's 1 explosion, that's 2 explosion, that's 3 explosion. Yep. And it's yep, there it goes. It's non-stop boom, because there's a lot of explosive components in the back there. Yep, and they yep. And they're not shielded from each other at all. It does have pretty good repair bots, but in this particular instance they don't help, because they repair ammo boxes just in time for them to get blown up again. Jeez, that was... So as you can see, yeah, this thing is not really combat operable anymore. That's it's down to 70%. And that's just from like a relatively light tap on the side right here. So it is very, very volatile. If it gets hit, it dies completely. And so, yeah, it's vulnerable to anything it can't evade, and that, well, par for the course really, that means lasers, and that means particle cannons. So it's quite vulnerable to that. The lightning hoods really do a number on this thing, which is something I'm interested in, because I'm gearing up to, well, get ready to fight the lightning hoods. So one of the first tests I did with this was throw it against lightning hoods craft, and laser craft in general, to see what happens. And it's a major contrast. It does not do well. So, yeah, it kind of needs a little bit more smoke to evade that, because it has some smoke, not a lot of smoke. And it tends to warp out of its own smoke cloud, so... Yeah, where are the smoke? Was ist das smoke? I can't see the smoke. See, like, I'm not gonna waste time finding it, but trust me, there is not enough smoke on this thing to adequately take on laser toting craft. And so cons, well, I should have mentioned before, it does have pretty good armor on the front. So if we go here, like any kind of front-facing airship, it's pretty thick, so 1 layer, 2 layer. Beams stacked lengthways, which I'm pretty sure isn't the best idea possible. I think you still get armor stacking, but it means that if, say, this gets destroyed, then this gets destroyed, you've got an explosion tunnel that leads like 4 meters deep into the craft, which isn't a huge problem because this armor is quite thick on the front. Okay, so that's the good news. The bad news is that it's considerably less thick on the sides, and, well, on the top it's actually quite thick. It's like at least 2 meters on the top, and often 3 meters by the looks of it. So, good armor on the front and top. On the side, not so much. So see here, it's really only 1 meter thick. These little metal square corners really do not do much. They get blown off very quickly. And down here it's only 1 layer, and then you're straight into the warp charges, which aren't connected now that I... Well, no, they're not connected because this thing's entire backside got blown off. Derp. So I should probably repair this thing quickly so we can talk about it a bit more. So, yeah, this thing is selectively armored. Front and top, and not so much on the back and sides. When it actually gets repaired, we'll be able to see here. Actually, you can kind of see, like, on the back, yeah, the thrusters are directly... Well, no, here we have... Well, yeah, pretty much. We have a layer of metal, a thruster, and then we're right into very volatile autoloaders. So if this thing gets hit from behind, it, well, it goes up like a firework. So something to keep in mind there. And I do tend to find that it steers weird if not facing an enemy directly, and I will show you that by spawning something in right here. So, what can we do? Let's spawn something in. Let's spawn in... What the hell is that? I'm trying to find a... Let's spawn in like a really old airship. Why not? So we spawn this in. So yeah, if something's spawning behind it, it tends to warp away from it and take a very long time to bring itself around. Not a huge issue though, because it eventually does get around, but it'll just take a while. Incidentally, my little airship is going to get very badly annihilated, I think. Yep. There she goes. Yeah, this thing will probably never see the light of day in the campaign. For very good reasons. Oh, yep. Oh, wow. 2 nukes, 90%, and still flying. Ah, I'm impressed with myself. Oh, well. So, yeah. Things like, do not let anything get behind this. And I guess on a last note, and I feel bad for it because this list is quite short, really. There's not an awful lot wrong with this, I have to say. But I guess if I did have to point out one last thing that is less good about this, is that it's the kind of engines it's using. There's not, again, not a lot you can do about it because this thing is very, very compact. It's using... what the hell? Oh, right. It's, yeah, best not to use a mix of carburetors and ejectors. And it's like, I'm very, very rusty with making fuel engines. I mostly just use the UFEP, the Useful Fuel Engine platform that's on the Steam Workshop, to get all my engines these days. But I'm pretty sure that mixing carburetors and injectors is really not worth it, because you can make a much smaller engine using just injectors, and you can make a much more efficient engine using just carburetors. So mixing and matching them, not really worth it. You could go full injectors and make them about half the length, really. There's no real benefit to mixing them. But that's basically it, really. So it's a very solid craft. Like, honestly, like, this thing can take on the Tur, it can take on the Kobold, it can take on a whole variety of mid to late game godly craft with perfectly no stress. So long as it's not using anything hit scan, this thing does just fine. So the recommendations, I would suggest, because it tends to steer away from it, because it has an aerial AI, let's just show you that, just to make absolute sure I'm not talking out of my hat. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, so it's here. It's got PIDs, aerial pitch, aerial roll, and it has, where is your... yeah, aerial AI. You really do not need an aerial AI for this kind of craft. Like, it's not a straight up negative, because it works, but something like how the Kobold works, using Deadly Blades and ACBs to control the distance, would probably work a little bit better, because it also means it wouldn't endlessly circle like this, which I find very irritating, because like I keep having to catch up to it while I review first world problems. But yeah, Deadly Blades plus ACBs, get rid of the aerial AI is what I'd recommend. And I would, and this is something that would really... why did I do that? Why did I do that, really? I would stick heavy armor separators, I'm taken to calling them, around the more volatile bits, because it does need that. If, like... So, from here, warp rods in the middle here, okay, if you're stuck with that, fine. And, well, honestly, you'd have to re-Tetris this a little bit in order to get this to work, but certainly here, you have ammo and you have autoloaders, one layer of metal between them, that's not enough. I would, if I were you, Renan, make this entire layer between the ammo and the autoloaders heavy armor. Because that means if this goes up, or rather if any of the ammo barrels go up, they won't take out all the autoloaders, and that's a big advantage. So something similar to like what you've done here. Like, I'm guessing maybe there's a reason you've done it like this, if only to reduce cost, but I would recommend it anyway because, well, this craft is already already cheap for what it can accomplish. I think you can splurge a little bit more, and it has no trouble staying in the air. So, heavy armor layer right between here, just so, like, if this little ammo barrel with just one layer of metal between it and the outside wall goes up, this entire thing goes up. That is a critical weakness, and it is, well, reasonably easily fixed. Well, at least partially, just by separating it out a little bit more. And speaking of that, I would recommend, because this thing keeps warping out of its own smoke, I would recommend laser-absorbing shields. It's not ideal because pretty much everything I've heard about them, and my own tests with them have said that they're not really that effective or efficient, but keeping in mind that if you rejig the engines to use pure injectors, you will have juice to spare, and you'll probably run out of fuel quite fast. This thing does eat fuel like crazy. You might have to do an engine overhaul, but yeah, you probably will have the spare juice for that. And this thing dodges so many shells anyway, it hardly really needs shields. It only really needs them for like little kinetic rounds. But yeah, laser-absorbing shields would make this thing a lot better against anything that uses lasers, and in the future, it might even survive particle cannons a little bit better. So, that's basically the Annoyance, about 20 minutes worth on this craft. Again, I like this thing. It's very annoying, but I like it. So we're gonna move on to the other craft, which is Sabertooth Proton's specialty. He's told me that pretty much everything he makes flies or ends up flying, so not a bad thing actually, because flying is a good idea in this game. Where was it? Here it is. Okay. Where are you? There you are. Hope this is the right version. Probably is. So we got the NV Hovercraft. And it is quite a cool little craft. So, what can we say about this? We can say quite a bit, actually. Wow, that's quiet. So, this thing's whole shtick is that it strafes back and forth sideways and is ramming proof. So, yeah, it's not actually hard to be ramming proof in this game. You just make something fast and fly at a high altitude, but this one does it in an interesting fashion. So, to start off with, this has ACB controlled strafing. So, we go in here and we find ACBs. I had a hell of a time finding this before because, again, very compact craft. So, activate if enemy range is blah blah blah. I think this is how he did it. It's general purpose PID, set point of all GP PIDs. 70. No, that's the anti-ramming trick. This thing levitates out of the water if anything gets close. That's trick 1, actually. So over here, there's the shield projectors. Let's do this. Let's try to find out ACBs. Here is where... Okay, no, so spin blocks. That is decorative stuff. And where is it? I found it before, damn it. I was wondering where it went. Okay. Is it back here? Wouldn't I like to know? Nope, that is the missile countermeasure. I don't know how he managed to do this. Basically, he gets the damn thing. Oh, no. Here we go. So, yep, it's something to do with ACBs and complex controls. So it's like, I'm guessing every few seconds, what happens is that the data blades on this side go, well, they spin, There is blades on this side, spin in the opposite direction, and the craft drifts sideways. So let's just test that. Let's throw a plunderer at it. So if I build here... I didn't review the bloody sub-vehicles. Oh well, I can do that later. Oh my goodness. So where is it? So it's a long way away, so it looks like the thing is steering towards them, but once it gets to within about 2,000 meters, that's when the fun begins. So I believe... Yep, this is where it happens. So you see, this thing is moving sideways, which is quite ingenious, really. Oh my god, the spin blocks warp out. That is genius. I never noticed that before. That's so cool. If you zoom out a little bit... So, we go in here, and you'll see that these spin blocks are working like mad. And it's quite clever, actually, using the complex control systems on the control blocks to essentially have Deadly Blades really close together, doing different things, because these ones control distance, and these ones control the strafing, so... And as you can see, like, I don't think that the Plunderer is going to land a single damn hit on this thing. Simply because the back and forth movement really screws with the prediction of detection systems. This thing is actually, in its own way, even harder to hit than the Annoyance is. It also means that when I tried making these two fight each other, the result was very boring because neither could hit the other. So... Oh yeah, dang it, I forgot to mention... Ah well, it's a thing for both of them, I'll mention it later. Watch me forget. So... It also reverses quite fast. You'll notice it's going at points over 40 meters per second, sideways and backwards, which is faster than a lot of craft can move forwards in a straight line. It's got a lot of smoke on the side here. So you can see right here, lots of smoke, and because it's straight sideways, if it's moving to the left, if this smokes, the entire vehicle, well, the entire midsection of the vehicle gets smoked as a result. I believe it has... Yep, it has some more smoke on the front. Its LAM systems, I believe, do not get smoked, so they're just far away enough to not get smoked at all. It has a lot of simple lasers on the front for point defense, so that's one of the reasons why the Annoyance cannot kill it, because it relies on nukes for a lot of its damage, and this thing pops nukes straight out of the air with no problem at all. What else? It has anti-ramming spears, and I will demo them in a little bit once the crossbones is dead. In fact, I'll do that right now. What is an annoying thing that rams? And this might cause my game to freak out, So the beautiful thing about the anti-ramming spears is that it is one layer of redundancy on top of another, so... let's get over there. And I should mention, this thing is adorable. It's got glowy propellers, and simple lasers, and a little gun. Very simple little aircraft. Not much to say about it, really, except it looks really cool. I don't know. Like, sub-vehicles always pose a problem for me because, like, well, it's a vehicle. And it basically means I'm reviewing 4 vehicles in this review instead of just 2. Thankfully, it's nice and succinct for both of them. So, incoming Longinus, which is my favorite testing dummy from the White Flayers for ramming craft, because it's very fast and annoying and it doesn't use graviton rams, unlike the Zealot, which is a pile of crap, I should mention. Need to slow the game down right here. Should mention this thing's shields are also something to write home about. The Longinus might very well die before it gets close, but it is gonna kill the little plane, probably first. So as you can see, like, the... Yep, there you go. Oh, shut up, phone. Okay, so Longinus is coming in, and the... Well, for one thing, the simple lasers are going to fry it more than a little bit. And second thing is the Hovercraft is actually retreating almost faster than the Longinus can come in. Oh, please, don't actually collide, don't crash my game. And it's got these pokey spears right here. Boom. Oh, shit. Oh, my god, this is very close. And it bounces straight over them. Screw you, Longinus. Goodbye. So that is really goddamn clever. I love that. And I might just hijack those pokey spears to stick on my other ships. And hello, degraded mode, my old friend. That's very nice of you. And I am going to stop that right there, because otherwise that could take a while. Lots of torpedoes as well, I should mention. And anti-ramming spears, which are awesome. It's got that little hovercraft, which unfortunately is very kind of dead. But that's no problem. Where did it go? Oh, dear. Somewhere over the rainbow. Let's repair you, little guy. So this little plane is... well, it's a number of functions. Firstly, it looks cool. And secondly, it has repair tentacles on it. And occasionally, its flight pattern is set up so it kind of circles over the hovercraft. Although this is technically also a hovercraft because it's a craft that hovers, but it's also kind of a plane, a kind of a helicopter thing. So, yeah, I'm stuck inside it. How'd that happen? So it's got a little cannon on the bottom. It is a little kinetic gun, mostly for show, but it can do a real number on anything that doesn't have good shields. Simple laser on top. It's got little missiles on it. Again, not amazing. Little frag missiles. It's just a nice little touch. It's a nice little friend, little buddy for the hovercraft itself. And so, going back over here, versatile guns. Almost, it's got the same kind of party mix as the Annoyance does. The only thing it's missing is HE frag. So it's got hollow point high explosive, it's got hash, it's got disruptor, and it's got supposed smoke. And also, like the Annoyance, there's lots of similarity between this thing. It has a very heavily armored nose. So, if we do this, you can see that, firstly, heavy armor straight off the bat, and it also has a lot of surge protectors in here. It's got, what is it? It's got a little air gap to full heat if it runs into it. Probably would be a little bit vulnerable to hash, if hash could ever hit the bloody thing. But also then it's got 2 layers of metal and a layer of wood, so it tends to be quite EMP resistant, because any EMP hits here gets absorbed by the heavy armor. If it manages to get past, it gets absorbed by the surge protectors, and if that's not enough, there's a layer of wood right here to stop it getting any further. And also there appears to be even more smoke in here, so you can't de-smoke this thing with EMP, it will not work. And it's also quite well armored on the sides as well, so I think there's at least 3 layers of metal. Well, hell no. I mean, layer of heavy armor, layer of metal, and a layer of wood right there. I should turn the UI back on so you can see what the hell is happening. So yeah, so metal, engine, blurg. So metal, engine, blurg. Metal, wood, and air gap, which is, it's not incredibly tough, but honestly, considering anything that's actually likely to hit it, this is pretty good armor. And it's 3 layers over here, and over here it's 4 layers over here. A little bit of smoke, that doesn't make good armor, but that's fine. And what did I write here? Oh yeah, lots of smoke. Got a very good lambs. It's very hard to hit with missiles, and I've tried. And it's got this little extendable... This thing does wonderful things with pistons, by the way. It's got an extendable sonar stick, which means it doesn't have to spit sonar buoys out into the water. Very nice. And it's also got a pretty damn good repair rate. So if 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I get it right this time? Yes, I did. So lots of ammo in here. And where's it? Where is it? It's got repair bots stashed away somewhere, but as tends to be the case with repair bots, it is here, there, and everywhere. I can't find the damn things for the life of me. Wish there was a search function in this mode. Or if there is, cool. Ah, there's where the torpedoes are. ACBs have got to be some... What the hell is this nonsense? No, really, what is this? What is this for? Dudes! Sabertooth Proton, what is this thing? No, really. This isn't a detector, it's just kind of wood. I have no idea what this is for. What the ginger knobs is this? Is it just... what's it surrounded by? If this is a way to... I don't know. If this is an exploit of some kind, which I haven't seen before, I would like to know, please. But honestly, it doesn't look like one. This wouldn't really protect any of the components near it. And it's a spinny wooden thing. I haven't a clue what this is enabled. Right. So yeah, that's there's a lot of advantages to this thing. Like, pretty much none of the craft I've built can beat this, or the Annoyance for that matter, one-on-one. I've yet to build that at all. But it doesn't have, it's not completely foolproof, I should say that. Like, no craft is, really. And starting... Not you. Oh my god. Let's restart the designer so we get back in the same universe. Okay, we're here. Bum, 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 bum. One. No, no, no. Buttons, buttons, buttons. So we're here. Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 do. So we are here. We are stuck inside the thing, and it has, well, it's got the same kind of weakness as the Annoyance, actually, which is when this thing does get hit, it goes up like a candle. And I will show you that with some expertly timed explosions. So where is the ammo at? It's here. Okay, so ammo's wrapped in heavy armor, so fully wrapped in heavy armor as well. So that's not a huge issue, but I don't believe... I think this gun is armored, actually. What am I talking about? So, not easy to blow up, even if you can catch it. But yeah, this gun isn't armored, like, beneath the deck. It's just in a nice little hidey hole. So it looks like. Yeah, that's what it is. Which means that when or if this gun goes up... Yep, there it goes. Ow! Shut. Now, I do not believe that took up the whole craft with it. But I'd be surprised if the thing is still looking healthy, so... 88%. Can I freaking walk over there? Okay, so... that gun could use some internal armoring. But also... there's the fact that when the ammo goes up, if it goes up, and same thing with the... Can you stop moving, please? Damn it. Stop it! I'm gonna stick a chair on you. See, I like craft that stay still so I can review them. Also so I can blow them up. So here is the ammo, very secure package, and... same thing really, like if that does get hit, this craft suffers a lot. Admittedly not as much as the Annoyance because, well, heavy armor wrap. Very good. And what else? What else? Its rear armor is also not amazing, but still better than the Annoyance as well. It's particularly because of these little decorative pointy bits act as a little bit of a shield for that. But still, rear armor, this thing does not really do well hitting the butt, but it does have smoke back here as well, so good for it. And its shells are rather slow. Should mention that straight off the bat. So if we go here, and look at the, say, disruptors. I think, what? I really should have checked how big these are. Can you not, please? Okay, so these are 250 millimeters. And they are disruptors, and they are 250 millimeters. Ugh, my throat hurts if I talk too much. Those 316 meters per second, the disruptors are pretty fast. The squash heads, on the other hand, less fast. 237 meters per second, which is still... it's decent. It can hit a target that isn't moving fast, but still this craft tends to suffer a little bit of anything that moves reasonably quickly and erratically, which is why it's got missiles for a start, but you should see what happens. Well, first I will repair it. Actually, no, I will not do that. I will do this. I will set up a fair test. And it also shares a weakness with the Annoyance, is that anything that can hit it can kill it. It takes 2 of them, but 2 of my recent lasercraft can take it down. And the WhitePotatoSalt, well, it is not a pretty fight. Let's just say that. So move that over here. Scarlet Dawn, NP Hovercraft. Because this thing has smoke, but smoke only does so much against a really crazy lasercraft. And, well, it moves slightly too fast. It does tend to outpace its own smoke just a little bit. And it does not have any hope in hell of hitting something as fast as the WhitePotatoSalt. The WhitePotatoSalt, I should mention, is like over 100,000 materials more expensive than it, but really, it wouldn't need to be that much of a gap. So as you can see, it relies on dodging things. In fact, I could have shown that off a lot more, and it also doesn't deal well with lasers coming down on top of it. And particularly once the WhitePotatoSalt gets behind it, which it will, yep, lasers are an issue because armor isn't really much of a defense. Yep, not a pretty sight. Not a pretty sight at all. I really should show that off against the... yeah. It just occurred to me I didn't show the WhitePotatoSalt doing that to the Annoyance. Oh well, it goes pretty much the same way, I have to say. It looks like really fast lasercraft are a kind of counter to what I'm starting to think of as hovercraft gunships, which just rely on evasiveness and distancing and strafing or warping to kind of avoid shots. But yeah, slow shells can't hit fast targets, is vulnerable to very strong lasers, or particle cannons, as per usual. And it is front-focused, it does not do well against things that can manage to get behind it. And I mean, well, it's not easy to get behind it because it reverses at 40 meters per second, but there are craft that can do that. I think that the Terawatt can do that. Actually, or maybe not. Actually, no, the Terawatt isn't quite fast enough, but if anything can get behind it, it does not end well. And again, a little bit, this has only happened once in all the tests I did, but the steering can get confused with multiple opponents, and it can end up kind of reversing between 2 adversaries. Like, I won't show that now because it's kind of hard to replicate, but yeah, it can happen. So, let's, just for giggles, let's spawn this way up in the air and see what happens. Whee! Fall out of the sky, you beautiful thing. So yeah, so what can be improved about this? Well, not an awful lot, really. Like the Annoyance, it is what it is. It's good at what it is. But I guess one thing could be... I don't know, you could make the drone slightly more formidable. There's nothing to stop you from making this thing spawn nukes. You could have faster shells, if you didn't mind sacrificing a little bit of damage. You could have even more smoke, although it's pretty well smoked already. You could even have laser-absorbing shields, but you know what? Just don't throw this against lasercraft, because it more than pays for itself against anything that uses kinetic weapons. So yeah, pretty good. So yeah, that's both ships reviewed. I guess I should set them to fighting each other now, although I warn you, that is not something that is going to be particularly exciting viewing, because it's a stalemate. It is a complete stalemate when these things fight each other. So, you be on Grey Talons, because why not? We have the Annoyance way over here, being on the Scarlet Dawn, because I like to thematically spawn in things for testing, because the what do you call it? The hovercraft is kind of fits in the Grey Talon's purview, in that it hovers, it's got like big nasty guns, it's tremendously irritating, it can beat a kobold one-on-one, and the Annoyance is as annoying as some, well, as Scarlet Dawncraft. And it warps around a lot, so that's tremendously irritating. So we'll go here, and neither of these craft can hit each other, because I also mentioned that the Annoyance also, well, doesn't have incredibly slow shells, but not particularly fast either. It also struggles with things that move too quickly. So these things are pretty much going to dodge each other forever. And also the NV Hovercraft is mostly nuke-proof. I don't think anything has taken damage yet. And as you can, you'll probably see very shortly, the Hovercraft is pretty much nuke-proof and ramming craft-proof because of all the little simple lasers on it. Unless a nuke gets in directly behind it, which is not very likely. You can see right here, nukes are coming in. Coming in. Hovercraft is like very fast. How's fast is it going? It's going 46 meters per second. Whoa! 50 meters per second. And yep, nukes are not a problem. So yeah. And it basically degenerates into this very, very long-range stalemate. And nobody in the world really has time for that. So, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Sabertooth Proton and Brandon, for sending your ships in. These are two very, well, very annoying but very fun craft. Please like, comment, subscribe, all you lovely people, if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you next time in From the Depths Subscriber Craft Review. We're in space. Farewell.